The alien woman was shocked when a human got her pregnant on the first try. The world of Violia was unlike any human had ever seen. Giant purple trees swayed in a wind that smelled like iron and ozone. Rivers ran with bright green water that shimmered under the twin suns. Strange creatures, some no bigger than a human hand, some larger than houses, roamed freely. Most were harmless, but the hunters of the planet, like Lyra, knew that even the smallest prey could turn deadly. Lyra, a Violian warrior scientist, moved silently along the edge of a cliff. Her four limbs gave her incredible balance, and her sharp eyes caught the slightest movement. Her mission was simple in theory: observe the new human colony on the other side of the planet, report back, and if necessary, neutralize any threats. Humans, her people believed, were weak, small, fragile, and short-lived. No human could survive Violia for long. Lyra had seen humans in holovids. Their skin lacked natural armor, their bones were thin, and their instincts seemed slow compared to Violians. Yet her commander warned, "Do not underestimate them, they may surprise you." Lyra snorted at the thought, surprising hardly. But as she approached the human settlement hidden in a rocky valley, she noticed something odd. Smoke rose from small domes that looked like they were made of clay and metal. Fires burned in controlled patterns, not wild like the fires her people used to burn forests. Humans moved in small teams, carrying tools and materials. They worked efficiently, building and repairing with a speed that seemed unusual. Lyra crouched behind a ridge, her heart steady but her curiosity growing. She watched a human, tall, strong-looking, with dark hair tied back, lift a heavy metal beam as if it weighed nothing. The human didn't sweat, didn't struggle, just moved it with calm precision. Lyra tilted her head. "Interesting," she murmured in her own language. "Not as fragile as I thought." Then a sharp crash rang out. A scaffold at the edge of the settlement shook violently, threatening to collapse. Several humans scrambled, shouting in their strange, rough language. One of them, the same tall one, leaped forward, grabbed a support beam, and stabilized the scaffold with a strength Lyra had not expected. The humans around him cheered quietly, relieved. Lyra blinked. She had seen similar feats in Violians, but this was a human. Her mind raced. Could they really survive here against Violia's dangerous terrain, without armor, without enhanced strength? Suddenly, one of the humans noticed something moving in the cliffs above. Lyra froze. She had been spotted. The tall human Elias raised a hand and signaled the others to stay calm. Then, without hesitation, he climbed a rock formation to get a better view. Lyra felt a flicker of respect. She had expected panic, fear, screaming, but not this. Confidence, composure, calm under pressure. Lyra decided to test him, not aggressively, not yet. She moved closer, using the shadows to her advantage. Then, just as she planned to make her presence known, a rock under her foot gave way. She slipped, losing her balance, and tumbled down the slope toward the human settlement. Elias reacted instantly. He grabbed a fallen branch, extended it, and caught her mid-fall. Lyra's body pressed against his as she gasped, regaining balance. His grip was firm but careful, his eyes steady. You're fast," Lyra said, startled by her own voice. "I've seen worse," Elias replied calmly, handing her a hand to steady herself. "You should be careful, these cliffs aren't forgiving." Lyra stared at him. His courage, his calmness, even the way he held her without crushing her, everything about him defied her expectations. She realized, with a spark of curiosity she had never felt toward a human before, that perhaps they were not so primitive after all. Over the next few hours, Lyra moved carefully through the settlement, observing humans at work. They were strange, yes, but clever. They made tools from limited materials, built shelters that could withstand storms, and even designed traps for the wild predators of Violia. Each small action was a puzzle, each solution a testament to human intelligence. Lyra's mind raced. If humans were this resourceful on Violia, a world she knew to be harsh, deadly, what else could they do? Could they truly survive anywhere? Could they adapt faster than her people could? As night fell, the twin moons casting a soft glow over the valley, Lyra made a decision. She would approach the humans, not as a predator, not as an invader, but as a curious observer. Perhaps she could learn more. Perhaps, just perhaps, humans were worth more than her people had ever imagined. She waited near the edge of the settlement, letting her presence be known. A few humans shouted, pointing at her. Elias stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked in the alien tongue she could barely understand. Lyra studied him carefully. He did not brandish a weapon. He did not run. He simply looked at her with calm curiosity, unafraid, analyzing her as carefully as she analyzed him. "I am Lyra," she replied, her voice steady. "I am an observer." "An observer," Elias repeated. "From where?" "Far from here," Lyra said, vague but truthful. She had no intention of revealing her people yet. "I mean no harm, I am curious." Elias tilted his head. Curiosity mirrored in his eyes. "Humans?" he asked, uncertain. Lyra laughed softly. "No, not human, but similar. Perhaps we can learn from each other." Elias nodded slowly. "Maybe, but if you're here to watch, be careful. Violia is dangerous even for you." Lyra smiled. She realized that here, in this strange settlement, she would find more than just answers. She would find a challenge, and challenges were rare for her people. Over the next few days, she moved closer, observing without interfering. But fate, as it often did, had other plans. One evening, a storm swept through the valley. Fierce winds and sudden rain threatened to destroy the human settlement. Elias and the others struggled to secure their shelters and equipment. Lyra could have left, could have retreated to the cliffs. But something inside her stayed. She wanted to see how they would handle the storm. When a heavy beam threatened to crush a human child, Lyra reacted instinctively. She leaped, pushed the beam aside, and saved the child. Elias looked at her wide-eyed, a mix of surprise and awe on his face. "You saved her?" he asked, voice shaky. Lyra nodded. "Yes, she is important." Elias shook his head, amazed. "I did not expect that. None of us did." In that moment, Lyra felt something shift inside her. Humans were not just survivors. They were more than she had imagined. Strong, clever, compassionate, capable of acts that even her species might not manage. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt curiosity mixed with respect, perhaps even admiration. And though she did not know it yet, that respect would soon become something far more personal, far more powerful than mere fascination. As the storm raged on, Lyra and Elias worked side by side. Rain soaked her, wind tore at her hair, but she felt alive. For the first time, she understood that humans could surprise even the most experienced alien warrior. That night, as the settlement settled after the storm, Lyra perched silently on a ridge, watching Elias move among his people. Her mind buzzed with new possibilities. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable, strong, clever, and capable of things she could not yet understand. Her heart, which she had long thought to be solely dedicated to her people and her mission, felt a strange pull. Something she could not name, something she did not fully understand, stirred within her. For now, she would observe. But deep inside, Lyra knew this encounter was the beginning of something extraordinary. Something that would challenge not just her assumptions, but the very beliefs of her species. And somewhere in the distant stars, a human named Elias had no idea how profoundly he had already changed an alien woman's life. The storm had passed, leaving the human settlement soaked and battered. Trees had fallen, shelters were damaged, and the rivers had swollen, washing away small bridges. Lyra perched silently on a ridge above, watching Elias and his people work. She had never seen a species recover so quickly after disaster. Each human moved with a sense of purpose and calm efficiency. They worked together, laughed when minor mistakes were made, and comforted each other with gentle gestures. Lyra felt a mixture of admiration and confusion. Humans were not the weak, fragile creatures her people had believed. They were resilient, they were smart, they were fascinating. She had intended to return to her ship after observing the storm, but then a new problem arose. One of the smaller bridges over the river had collapsed completely. Without it, supplies could not reach the settlement, and the humans risked being stranded. Lyra watched as Elias studied the gap, tapping his chin thoughtfully. He looked around, then back at the broken bridge, then at the river. "Looks like we'll need to build a new one," he said to the group. "But the river is too strong," a human shouted. "It could sweep us away." Elias didn't reply immediately. He knelt by the river, inspecting the water's flow, the debris, and the rocks beneath. Then he straightened up, eyes sharp. "We can do it," he said confidently, "but we'll need help." Lyra felt a surge of curiosity. She could help. She had the strength, the agility, and the knowledge to stabilize the logs and supports. But if she revealed herself too soon, the humans might panic. Before she could decide, a sudden shout rang out. One of the humans slipped while trying to secure a log. The beam tilted, threatening to fall. Without thinking, Lyra leapt from the ridge, landing softly behind the humans. She grabbed the beam with her 4 strong arms, steadying it just as it began to tip. The humans froze. Elias' eyes widened, then narrowed in awe. "Who?" What? Lyra stepped forward, keeping her movements deliberate and non-threatening. I can help, she said, her voice carried calm authority. Step aside, stand back. Elias studied her carefully. Then, to her surprise, he nodded. All right, let's do it together. For the next few hours, Lyra and Elias worked side by side. She lifted heavy logs effortlessly, positioned them with precision, and corrected mistakes the humans hadn't even noticed. Elias directed the team, but she could see the respect growing in his eyes. He had expected resourcefulness from humans, not from an alien stranger. By the time the new bridge was secured, night had fallen. The humans celebrated quietly, tired but relieved. Elias approached Lyra. You're incredible, he said, his voice low. I've never seen anyone move like that. Lyra inclined her head, not used to praise. You are not weak, she said. You survive, you think, you adapt, you are stronger than your people's stories suggested. Elias laughed softly. We survive, we always try. But you're something else. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. She realized that humans were more than just adaptable. They were clever, persistent, and compassionate. And Elias, he was unlike anyone she had ever met. Calm, intelligent, and oddly comforting. The storm had left the settlement vulnerable, and Lyra knew she could not leave immediately. She needed shelter, supplies, and safety. Elias, sensing her dilemma, offered a place to stay. You can stay in the supply hut tonight, he said. It's safe, dry. We'll figure out the rest in the morning. Lyra hesitated. Her instincts told her to be cautious, to observe from a distance. But she felt drawn to him. There was something about this human that made her want to trust him. She nodded. Very well. The supply hut was small and sparse. Logs formed the walls, a small fire pit in the center provided heat, and a few cots lined the edges. Elias gestured to one. You can take that cot, I'll take the floor. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You will sleep on the floor? Elias shrugged. I'm used to it, you're bigger than me, you'll need space. She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the cot. The human was strange. He was small, yes, but strong in ways she didn't yet understand, and he carried a confidence she could not ignore. For a few moments they sat in silence. The sound of rain dripping from the damaged roof filled the room. Lyra studied him carefully. He was human, fragile in appearance, but there was a depth to him, resilience, intelligence, and patience that fascinated her. I must ask, she said finally. Why do you stay here? Why risk your life on this harsh world? Elias leaned back, eyes reflecting the firelight. Because we can, because giving up is not an option, and because sometimes helping each other is worth the risk. Lyra tilted her head, intrigued. Humans valued cooperation, loyalty, and courage in ways that surprised her. Her people valued strength and skill, yes, but the human way of combining thought and heart was foreign, and oddly appealing. Over the next few days, Lyra and Elias were forced to stay close. The storm had destroyed several pathways, and the humans could not travel safely without her help. Together, they repaired shelters, built barriers, and hunted for food. Lyra noticed things she had never considered before. Humans were not just survivors, they were inventors. They created simple machines to lift heavy objects, traps to catch prey efficiently, and even methods to purify water. Their minds worked in ways her people rarely did. And Elias, he led them with patience and courage. He listened to their ideas, encouraged them, and acted decisively when danger arose. Lyra felt a growing respect for him, one that went beyond mere fascination. One evening, while repairing a shelter, Lyra slipped on wet mud. Elias grabbed her arm, steadying her with ease. Their faces were close, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink around them. You are careful, he said, his voice soft. You cannot survive if you underestimate danger. Lyra felt a warmth she did not understand. You are careful too. Your people, they survive because of you. Elias smiled. We survive together, that's the difference. Lyra's mind raced. Humans survived not because of strength alone, but because of cooperation, trust, and courage. And Elias, he embodied all of it. Over the next few nights, they shared stories of their worlds. Lyra spoke of Virelia's dangers, its predators, and its advanced technology. Elias spoke of Earth, of human ingenuity, and of the human spirit. Each story revealed more about their differences and their similarities. Lyra learned that humans had a strange kind of resilience. They could endure harsh climates, dangerous predators, and emotional stress, yet remain kind, inventive, and even joyful. They adapted quickly, learned from mistakes, and often found clever solutions to impossible problems. She realized slowly that humans were not just survivors, they were remarkable. And Elias, he was exceptional among them. One night, as they sat by the fire, Elias handed her a cup of water. She took it, their fingers brushing briefly. She felt a strange pull, a connection she could not name. "You are different," she said finally. "Not like the others I have studied." "You are human, yes, but stronger, smarter, caring." Elias met her gaze. "We can surprise you," he said simply, "sometimes in ways you cannot imagine." Lyra tilted her head. That phrase echoed in her mind. Humans could surprise her. And she realized, with a spark of curiosity and something more, that she wanted to see how far those surprises could go. The next day brought new challenges. A predator, larger than anything Lyra had ever seen, approached the settlement. It moved with terrifying speed, its eyes glowing in the daylight. Humans panicked, but Elias organized them quickly, creating traps and barricades. Lyra fought alongside him, amazed at how humans coordinated under pressure. They used their brains and their courage, working in perfect unison. The predator was captured, not killed, and the humans cheered. Lyra felt a thrill she had never known, admiration, excitement, and something closer to fascination. By the end of the week, the humans had repaired their settlement, and Lyra had learned more about their strength, adaptability, and ingenuity than she could have imagined. She had also learned about Elias, his courage, patience, intelligence, and his ability to inspire loyalty. For the first time, she considered something she had never thought possible. Could humans, despite their fragility, truly be equal to her people? Could they even surpass them? Lyra did not yet know the answer. But she felt certain of one thing: her curiosity about humans and about Elias had only just begun. And somewhere deep inside her, she felt the stirrings of something far more personal, far more powerful than simple admiration. Days passed after the storm, and the human settlement gradually returned to normal. Trees were cleared, shelters rebuilt, and the rivers no longer threatened destruction. Lyra remained a silent observer, though she had begun participating more actively, helping with repairs and hunting. Elias, always calm and confident, moved among his people, coordinating tasks while keeping an eye on her. It was a quiet morning when Elias approached Lyra while she repaired a damaged food supply container. He held a small metal tool she had not seen before. "This could help," he said simply, handing it to her. "It's light but strong. You can lift heavier things with it." Lyra examined it carefully. She had relied on strength and instinct for so long, but this tool made her tasks easier. She was impressed. "Humans are clever," she said. Elias smiled. "We survive by thinking. Strength alone is not enough. You understand that now, don't you?" Lyra nodded slowly. She did. Humans combined thought, instinct, and cooperation in a way her people rarely did, but there was more to Elias. Every action he took, every word, carried a calm certainty that she could not ignore. That evening, the humans gathered around the central fire for a meal. Lyra stood at the edge, quietly observing. The humans ate simply, but there was laughter, stories, and an unmistakable sense of unity. Lyra's mind drifted to her own people. Violians were strong, skilled, and disciplined, but there was little joy, little warmth in their daily lives. Humans, despite their fragility, found happiness in cooperation and resilience. Elias noticed her watching and gestured for her to join. She hesitated, unused to such invitations, but something in her stirred. She stepped forward and took a place beside him. "You should eat," he said softly. "You need energy." Lyra accepted a portion of food, observing him closely. The human's simple act of kindness struck her. She had expected aggression, fear, or suspicion from humans, but instead there was patience, understanding, and care. Over the next few days, Elias and Lyra found themselves spending more time together. They repaired shelters, hunted dangerous creatures, and gathered food. Every shared task deepened their understanding of each other, and Lyra felt a growing respect for him. But it was more than respect. There was curiosity and a strange warmth she had never felt before. One evening, as they rested after a long day, Elias noticed her limping slightly. "You're hurt," he said. "Let me see." Lyra hesitated, unused to allowing anyone to see her vulnerable, but the concern in his eyes was genuine. She stepped closer, allowing him to examine the minor cut on her leg. Elias cleaned it carefully, applied a bandage, and smiled reassuringly. "You heal quickly," he said, surprised. "Even with minor injuries, you recover faster than we do." Lyra tilted her head. "Your species survives because you endure, and you recover. It is remarkable." They sat in silence, the fire crackling beside them. For the first time, Lyra felt comfortable sharing a piece of herself with another being. Humans had patience, but Elias had something more, an instinctive understanding of trust and respect. The next day brought a challenge that would test their bond further. While hunting in the dense forest near the settlement, they encountered a predator larger than any Lyra had faced before. Its scales were thick, its teeth sharp, and its eyes glowed with hunger. Humans panicked, but Elias remained calm. He studied the creature, then acted decisively. "Stay behind me," he instructed Lyra. "We'll use the terrain. You can help me corner it." Lyra moved as he directed, her instincts blending with his strategies. Together, they outmaneuvered the predator, using traps and clever tactics to subdue it. By the end, both were exhausted but victorious. Elias looked at her, a mixture of admiration and something deeper in his gaze. "You're incredible," he said. "I've never fought alongside anyone like you." Lyra felt her chest tighten. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, yet here she was, relying on one for more than just observation. She had begun to trust him, even depend on him. And in that trust, something unfamiliar began to stir. That night they shared stories by the fire. Lyra spoke of her childhood training as a Virelian warrior, her duties to her people, and her expectations for life. Elias shared tales of Earth, of human perseverance, and of the strange ways humans found hope in the bleakest situations. "You humans," Lyra said softly, almost to herself. "You endure, you survive, you adapt, but you also care for each other. That is different from my world." Elias smiled. "It's not weakness, it's strength, and you are learning it even if you do not know it yet." Lyra's gaze met his. There was a spark in his eyes, something that made her heart beat faster. She could not name it, but she felt drawn to him in a way that transcended curiosity. Over the next few days, their bond deepened. They laughed together, argued gently over strategies, and shared quiet moments of understanding. Lyra found herself thinking of him when he was not near, wondering what he was doing, whether he was safe. One evening, after another long day of repairs and hunting, they sat together watching the twin moons rise over the horizon. Elias handed her a small cup of water, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact was electric, sending a warmth through Lyra that she did not fully understand. "You are unlike anyone I have met," she said finally. "Not just human, but remarkable." Elias met her gaze, his eyes steady. "And you are not like any alien I have met. You are strong, clever, and kind. It's impossible not to respect you." Lyra felt something shift inside her. Humans were more than she had imagined. Elias was more than she had imagined. And for the first time, she wondered if the human she respected so deeply could also change her in ways she did not yet understand. Days turned into nights, and the settlement slowly healed. Yet Lyra's thoughts were increasingly occupied with Elias. She studied him, learned his habits, his preferences, his strengths, and his small quirks. Every detail fascinated her. Then, one quiet night, something unexpected happened. The humans were celebrating the settlement's recovery with a small feast. Music played, stories were shared, and Elias invited Lyra to join. She hesitated, but curiosity and something stronger drove her forward. For the first time, she allowed herself to enjoy the warmth, the laughter, and the camaraderie. Elias stayed close, offering gentle words, a steady presence, and small acts of kindness that made her heart beat faster than she thought possible. As the night wore on, Lyra felt a pull toward him, a desire to trust completely, to be vulnerable in ways she had never allowed. She understood that humans, and Elias in particular, thrived on connection, on empathy, on shared experiences. And so, without fully understanding why, she allowed herself to come closer to him. Their hands touched, their eyes met, and in that silent moment, a bond was formed that went beyond observation, beyond friendship, beyond respect. It was in that quiet intimacy, in that moment of shared trust, that the first surprise occurred. Lyra felt a strange warmth, a deep stirring within her body that she had never experienced before. It was biological, emotional, and profound. Elias noticed her reaction, concern flashing in his eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, though her mind raced. I think so. It is new." The humans around them continued to celebrate, unaware of the quiet, intimate bond forming between Lyra and Elias. And deep within her, a realization began to take shape. Humans were not just survivors. They were powerful, capable, and capable of producing effects that even Virelians could not predict. When Lyra finally rested that night, alone in the small supply hut, She felt a mixture of awe, confusion, and something she could not yet name. Humans had surprised her before, but never in a way so personal, so profound. She realized, with a shiver of understanding, that Elias had done something biologically impossible, at least by her species' standards. Her body had reacted, and it had reacted fully instantly to a human on the very first encounter. Lyra's mind whirred with questions. How was this possible? Could one human truly affect her so completely? Was this a fluke or something inherent in humans? She did not know. All she knew was that this single, intimate moment had changed everything. Humans were no longer merely clever, resilient, or resourceful. They were remarkable in ways that could not be ignored. And Elias, the human who had saved her life, worked beside her and earned her respect, had unknowingly claimed a place in her body, her mind, and her heart that could never be taken away. The first surprise was complete. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the strange stirrings within her, and understood one truth. Her encounter with humans, and with Elias in particular, would never be the same again. The world of Violia, the humans, the predators, the storms, all of it faded from her mind for a moment. All that remained was the realization that humans, and Elias, were capable of wonders she had never imagined. And for the first time, she looked forward to discovering just how far those wonders could go. Lyra had never imagined that a single moment could change everything. The realization that she was pregnant, the first time with a human, shook her to the core. Her body reacted in ways no Violian had ever experienced. She had trained her entire life for discipline, control, and survival, but this was beyond her understanding. Her mind whirred with questions. How could a human so small and seemingly fragile have such a profound effect? Was this truly possible, or had her body betrayed her? For days, she avoided other members of her species, hiding in the outskirts of the human settlement. Elias noticed her distraction, his concern growing with each passing day. He had not fully understood the depth of her reaction, but he could see the change in her behavior, moments of quiet reflection, hesitation, and an intensity that was new. Lyra, he said gently one evening as she inspected a supply crate. You've been distant, what's wrong? Lyra shook her head. It is personal, she replied softly. Something happened, something I do not understand. Elias studied her face, searching for a hint of meaning. He could see fear, awe, and something more, a wonder he could not name. I'm here, he said quietly. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Lyra hesitated, then allowed a small nod. Humans seemed so different, yet their calm determination and emotional clarity reassured her. Elias had already earned her trust. Now she felt that she could share even the deepest secret. A few days later, the truth became impossible to hide. She felt the unmistakable signs of pregnancy. Subtle, rapid changes in her body, a strange warmth in her chest and abdomen, and an instinctive need to protect herself. She could no longer deny it, and she realized that the humans and aliens alike would soon notice. Lyra returned to the human settlement, her mind racing. Elias greeted her with his usual calm smile. You're back, he said. Everything okay? She took a deep breath. Yes, for now, she said, though her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. But soon my people will know. Elias nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. Humans had faced fear and prejudice, but the Violians, they were a proud, disciplined, and often rigid species. The idea that a human could impregnate one of their warriors on the first encounter would be met with disbelief, skepticism, or worse. Word traveled quickly. By the next day, a small delegation of Violians arrived at the settlement. Lyra had informed them that she wished to speak, but she did not explain why. They approached her cautiously, their expressions a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Lyra, said Commander Valen, a stern figure with piercing eyes, we have heard rumors, tell us the truth. Lyra took a deep breath. It is true, she said. I am pregnant by a human. The group froze, some gasped audibly, others simply stared, unable to process what she had said. A human, pregnant on the first encounter? Impossible, unthinkable. Valen's eyes narrowed. This cannot be. Humans are weak, their biology fragile. How could this happen? Lyra met his gaze, her voice steady. It has happened. Elias, he is strong, clever, and capable in ways you cannot imagine. My body responded immediately. There was no hesitation. The room was silent for a moment. Some Violians whispered to each other, disbelief evident in their tones. Then one of the younger warriors stepped forward. This is a miracle, the warrior said, awe in their voice. But also shocking. How can a human do this? Lyra shook her head. You ask the wrong question. You should ask why you underestimated humans for so long. They endure, they adapt, they survive. And Elias, he surpasses your expectations. Valen paced for a moment, deep in thought. If this is true, if one human can affect a Virelian so completely, then we have been blind. We have underestimated your kind. Lyra's heart raced. She had anticipated disbelief, perhaps ridicule, but not the dawning respect that now flickered in Valen's eyes. Humans were not only survivors, they were revolutionary in their own way, capable of challenging centuries of Virelian assumptions. Elias stepped forward, his calm presence commanding attention. I did not mean for this to happen, he said, but it has. And I will take responsibility. Lyra is not alone, we face this together. The Virelians studied him carefully. His confidence, patience, and willingness to accept responsibility impressed them. They had expected fear, hesitation, or arrogance. Instead, they saw a human who could match their warriors in composure, strategy, and moral strength. A murmur ran through the group. One of the older scientists who had long studied human physiology stepped forward. It is unprecedented, but it appears to be true. Your species may possess capabilities we have never documented. Perhaps we have underestimated humans entirely. Lyra felt a mix of relief and pride. Humans, she realized, were capable of astounding feats, not just in survival, but in biology, intelligence, and emotional depth. Elias' presence had challenged not only her assumptions, but those of her entire species. Over the next few days, the settlement became a hub of activity. Scientists and warriors came to study Elias, observe his interactions with Lyra, and attempt to understand how a human could produce such an effect on a Virelian on the first attempt. Lyra watched, fascinated and quietly proud. Elias remained humble, patient, and unwavering. He answered questions, demonstrated his strength and endurance, and treated everyone with respect. His actions reinforced everything she had begun to believe. Humans were remarkable in ways no alien had truly anticipated. One day, as they walked along a riverbank, Elias turned to her. How are you feeling? He asked softly. Lyra placed a hand on her abdomen instinctively. Different, changed, but strong. I feel capable and safe with you. Elias smiled, a warmth in his eyes. You should. You are strong, but we'll face this together. Your people, my species, we can adapt just like we always do. Lyra nodded, her heart swelling. She realized that this pregnancy was more than a personal revelation. It was a symbol. A symbol of human capability, of strength, and of the ability to surpass expectations. Humans were not weak. They were extraordinary, and she had experienced it firsthand. But the challenges were far from over. Not everyone accepted the truth easily. Some warriors whispered doubts, jealousy flickering in their eyes. Some questioned Lyra's judgment, unable to reconcile the fact that a human, a species they had long dismissed, had accomplished what they thought impossible. Lyra faced them with quiet determination. Doubt me if you will, she said, but Elias is human, he is capable, and he has changed more than just my life. He has changed the way you will see your world and ours. We cannot ignore the truth of his strength. Slowly, grudging respect began to replace skepticism. Even the harshest critics could not deny Elias' composure, intelligence, and resilience. Humans were no longer simply a curiosity, they were a revelation. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra began to embrace her pregnancy fully. She moved with a new sense of purpose, her body adapting to the changes with surprising ease. She realized that humans were not just biologically resilient, they were capable of producing effects that defied alien expectations. And Elias, he remained by her side, a constant presence of strength, patience, and care. Every action he took reinforced the lessons she had learned. Humans could survive, adapt, inspire, and even change the course of an alien civilization. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the valley, Lyra spoke softly. My people, they doubted humans, but now I see they are remarkable, and you have proven it, Elias. He took her hand gently. I only did what humans do best, he said. We adapt, we endure. And sometimes we surprise even ourselves. Lyra smiled, feeling the stirrings of life within her, a reminder of the power of humans. She realized that this pregnancy was not just a personal miracle. It was a testament to everything she had learned about human capability, courage, and ingenuity. The world of Virelia would never be the same. The humans had arrived, and they had already begun to change the hearts and minds of an entire species. And at the center of it all was Elias, a human who had proven beyond doubt that his species could surpass expectations in ways no alien had ever imagined. Lyra's heart swelled with a mixture of awe, pride, and something deeper. She knew that the challenges ahead would be great, that skepticism and prejudice would not disappear overnight. But for the first time, she felt a sense of certainty. Humans were extraordinary, and their influence was only beginning. As the night settled over the settlement, Lyra rested, feeling the life growing within her. She knew that this child, half human, half Virelian, would be a symbol of a new era, a reminder to her people that humans were not weak, not fragile, and not to be underestimated. And she knew without a doubt that Elias, the human who had changed her life on the first encounter, was the reason everything had begun. The shock of the alien world had passed. What remained was admiration, respect, and the dawning realization that humans were capable of wonders no one had expected. Lyra closed her eyes, her hand on her abdomen, and whispered softly, "We are ready. The world is ready, and together we will face whatever comes next."